Not too long ago, my friend had said something to me that has been stuck in my mind on repeat ever since. She said to me, "You are a stranger to no one." And I find that my mind goes back to this idea almost daily. Without even knowing it, she perfectly put into words the person that my mom was. My mom was on a first-name basis with our mailman, our neighborhood ice cream truck driver, and every cashier at the grocery store. She would go out for last-minute party supplies, and she would come back with decorations and extra guests. She would invite every person who stepped into our home into her room for a heart-to-heart. And that's where she welcomed tears and big feelings without any hesitation. She never missed an opportunity to hold a hand or share a hug. My mom loved every person she met as if she knew them forever. Looking back, I really admire this about her, but in the moment, especially as a teenager, not so much. I couldn't understand why she had to attract these kinds of people, why she had to stop and have a conversation with every single person that we passed. Why are so many people willing to share their dreams and their concerns with her? Why did my mom feel like it was her responsibility to listen to strangers? It's because my mom was a stranger to no one. She met friends everywhere that she went, and I don't just mean that she stopped to talk to people in passing, which, believe me, she did plenty of, but she took the time to get to know people. She opened her eyes to their suffering. She got to know them on a deeper level. She saw that all people had potential, and she gave them a chance to share their stories. As Pastor Allison shared with us, today is Peace with Justice Sunday, a day when the United Methodist Church voices the need to advocate for peace and justice throughout our world. How can we possibly bring forth peace during times of division? How can we bring forth justice when it seems like people are hurting and suffering everywhere that we look? I don't want to disappoint anybody today, but I do not have all of the answers for that. I don't know how to rid the world of all of its problems, and believe me, I wish that I did. But what I do know is that justice begins in community. Justice can start in our hearts, in this room, and in our church. We can bring peace home to our families, into our jobs, the grocery store, and every conversation that we have. Justice happens when we decide to be a stranger to no one. The scripture that was read for us this morning is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. Growing up, I was always blown away by the fact that Jesus could heal this person. That with just a few words, all of this man's sins were forgiven, even before he could admit them. Not only that, but Jesus was able to physically heal this man. His life was transformed with just a few words, and he was able to walk again. While this is clearly a miracle, I have been realizing lately that there is so much more to this story. Jesus did not go to this man. He very easily could have, but that is not what happens. People brought this person to Christ. His community literally picks him up, they carry his burdens, And when they can't help him, when they can't be the ones to do the healing, they bring him to somebody who can. When Jesus entered Capernaum, masses of people gathered. Able-bodied people flocked to Jesus, so much so that there was no room left for anybody else. There was no place for the other or the outsider. And rather than joining the crowds and going to Jesus for themselves, the community remembers the paralyzed man. They made a way for him, even when it seemed impossible. They didn't throw up their hands saying, "Hey, at least I tried." They didn't expect this man to gratefully receive whatever blessings were left over. They cared enough about this person that they did whatever they could to bring him into a place of opportunity and hope. Nobody asked him if he was deserving of help. Nobody questioned whether or not he was actually paralyzed. This community recognized that it was not their place to determine who was deserving of compassion and grace. They showed up for their friend, and they kept showing up. Imagine a world that looks like that. Can we get to a place where we recognize that people, even the ones that are vastly different from us, the ones that have absolutely no similarities with us, that they are still valuable, that they are loved by God? We don't have to see ourselves in somebody else to see God in them. For years, I have wondered what this man did after he was healed. Where did his feet lead him? Maybe he decided to go out for a walk because he was so excited. Maybe he decided to take a rest because he was afraid of what would happen if he overdid it. I would like to think that his feet led him to other people in need. I would hope that this man, overcome by joy and thanksgiving, would tell the world of a man who heals, a God who listens, and a community of people who walked beside him when his burdens were too heavy. I would like to think that the very feet that this man was now able to walk on would become the feet of Christ. That is what justice can do. Justice starts in community. We can make a difference when we carry the people around us, when we lift up their burdens and we journey alongside them. This man could have gone on to change countless lives, but would he have been in that position if the people around him didn't notice his immediate needs? We have to be willing to see the people around us, to really see them. Brené Brown, an incredible author, shared some of the greatest lessons that she has learned in life. In that list, she wrote this: "The lesson is simple. Don't look away. Don't look down. Don't pretend not to see hurt. Look people in their eyes, even when their pain is overwhelming. And when you are in pain, find the people who will look you in your eyes. We need to know that we are not alone, especially when we are hurting." I truly do believe that people want to do good and they want to share the love of God with others, but sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we are so busy with our jam-packed schedules and clouded by our own judgments and misconceptions that we just miss it. We don't take the time to see what is really going on in the lives of the people around us. How can we bring light into dark places if we don't know where there is darkness? How can we meet the needs that we don't see? Now, I have been to a few different churches now, and while all of them are different, some things do not change. In every church I've gone to, I know that every person has a favorite pew, and I cannot come in and take their seat. Most of the time, we know who is part of what committee, who we can go to if we have questions or if something breaks. Most of the time, we know who is related to who. But do you know why the person sitting next to you started coming to this church? Do you know the beautiful stories of how God showed up for the people sitting behind you? Do you know the struggles or the moments of sadness and suffering of the visitors that sneak in the back row? Do we know what type of situations the people who watch from home are living in? I know it would be hard for us to know everyone and everybody who has stepped foot in this church or worshiped with us online. But we can start by looking around us. We don't know much about the man in Mark either. We don't know why he is paralyzed or what happened to him. We don't know if he was born this way or if it's due to fault of his own. But we do know that when he was in need, the faith of the people around him carried him to Christ. People who trusted in the power of Jesus had enough faith for him. They opened their eyes and they saw the need of the people around them. I have been blessed to be part of a few small groups here at Westfield, and they've honestly been so life-giving to me so far. Together, we have explored Scripture and asked tough questions. We have shared our fears and our dreams. We have laughed and shared recipes, and I have even learned how to crochet. But most importantly, we have prayed for one another, and we have prayed together. Every week, I leave this church knowing that I have people who could carry me to Christ if my burdens feel too heavy. That is community, and that is why we gather. I want for each and every person worshiping with us in person and online today to experience that. We have so many opportunities here to get connected, to build relationships, and to just dig a little bit deeper. If you are looking for that kind of community, please feel free to reach out to me. We can get you connected to a small group. The scripture from Mark ends with the Pharisees who are in disbelief, proclaiming that we have never seen anything like this. This whole situation is miraculous. We see a story of forgiveness, of healing, and justice. We see what can happen when people are guided by their faith and when they use their power and strength to lift up those in need. We see what can happen when we bring people to Christ. This is a story of community. How can we in this space live like this? How can we act in a way that people say, I have never seen anything in my life like this? We can start by being a stranger to no one.